My mother wanted me to swap fiancés with my sister at my engagement party because hers is taking too long to get married. But now both of them are crying. Yesterday was my engagement party, and I'm here to tell you about the ridiculous things my foolish mother and sister did. For some context, I'm engaged to my fiancé, Leo, and this was our engagement party. He proposed to me recently during our trip to Greece, which I loved because I adore that country. After returning home, we decided to host a small, intimate gathering at our house to celebrate. It wasn't anything extravagant, just family and close friends that my mom and my older sister, Terry, were there, of course. Terry's fiancé, Ezra, was also invited. Their relationship is a whole story in itself. Terry and Ezra have been engaged for 3 years, but there's still no wedding. They're the definition of an on-again, off-again couple. I've lost count of how many times they've broken up, only to get back together days or weeks later. It's an endless cycle that's exhausting to follow. Their issues are serious. Terry struggles with alcohol, and Ezra has a bad habit of cheating. It's a toxic combination, and every time they try to make it work, it falls apart. Despite this, they've stayed engaged, trying to make it work, and for some reason they keep coming back to each other. Both are college dropouts who decided to quit school because they had this grand idea of traveling the world together. They talked about living an adventurous life, hopping from country to country, experiencing new cultures, and avoiding boring 9-to-5 jobs. It sounded exciting in theory, but reality was different. Neither had savings to fund their travels. At first, my parents reluctantly helped them. They weren't thrilled about the idea, but Terry is their golden child. They gave them some money, hoping it would kickstart their journey. So, off they went, full of excitement and big dreams. But within 3 months, they were back, broke and asking for more. My parents, being the kind of people who seem to have grapefruit for brains, helped them again. This time, my dad made it clear that if they wanted to keep traveling, they had to support themselves. He told them to get jobs, like responsible adults. That advice went in one ear and out the other, because a few months later, they returned again, still broke and still begging. This time, my dad had had enough. He put his foot down and refused to give them more money. That sparked a huge fight. Terry was furious, and Ezra wasn't happy either, but my dad said it was over. He told them if they wanted a nomadic life, they had to figure it out themselves. He even said ancient nomads didn't have supermarkets or a dad's wallet to rely on. Terry hated the analogy, but in the end, she reluctantly got a job at a local restaurant because my dad wouldn't budge. It wasn't what she wanted, but she had no choice. My mom, always the peacemaker, tried to convince my dad to at least help with their rent while they got back on track. He told her to pay it out of her own pocket if she wanted to. So now they have a roof over their heads thanks to her, though she's not exactly thrilled about it. As for Ezra, he's been working as a mechanic, which is probably the most stable thing he's done in years. But knowing them, it's only a matter of time before they get bored and chase another unrealistic dream. As for me and Terry, we're not close. Truthfully, she's always been my mom's favorite, which is why Mom bails her out no matter what. You've already read about one of those times. I swear if it weren't for my dad setting boundaries, my mom would have drained our savings just to keep Terry happy. It was no different when Terry and Ezra got engaged. My mom was over the moon, ready to plan their dream wedding, fully paid for, of course. But that never happened because Ezra kept delaying. Every time setting a date came up, he had an excuse. He wasn't ready, needed more time, or wasn't fully committed yet. It was ironic. They'd been together for years, engaged, and still, he couldn't take the final step. Meanwhile, my mom kept holding out hope for her golden child's wedding. So when Leo and I got engaged, Terry wasn't exactly thrilled. When she heard the news, I didn't get a single congratulation. She could have at least tried. She told my mom she wasn't upset about my engagement, but claimed I was trying to compete with her. Compete over what? A wedding that's not even happening because her fiancé keeps stalling? Knowing how Terry is, I try not to talk to her much during my engagement party to avoid ruining my mood. But she managed to corner me and made it clear she wasn't happy about my engagement. Unlike her, we had a set wedding date, which was her main complaint. She said I'd pressured Leo into proposing just to make her look bad. It's not my fault Ezra keeps dodging commitment with endless excuses. Leo and I love each other, and he proposed the date himself, no pressure involved. It's all in her head, where there's plenty of empty space since she wasn't born with much up there. But of course, Terry didn't see it that way. Everything's about her. To my sister, something was off because a guy like Leo couldn't possibly be with me while she's stuck with someone like Ezra. She even accused me of trapping him with a baby, checking me for any signs of pregnancy. The thing is, I've always suspected Terry has a secret crush on Leo. With me, she's cold, dismissive, sometimes outright rude. But the moment Leo walks into a room, she transforms, suddenly sweet, smiling, charming. It's weird. Take my engagement announcement, for example. She refused to congratulate me, but had no problem giving Leo a long hug. This behavior isn't new. Terry's always been oddly flirtatious with him whenever she gets the chance. Sometimes it's subtle, but other times it's so blatant it's embarrassing. When alcohol's involved, it gets worse. She'll stand too close, find excuses to touch his arm, shoulder, or even chest. Leo's had to tell her to back off, and when he does, she plays innocent, blaming it on being too drunk. We both know that's not true. She even stalks him on social media. Leo blocked her a while ago, but she still finds ways to keep tabs on him. That's exactly why he avoids her whenever possible. He wants nothing to do with her games. So I told Terry to back off and reminded her that, unlike her fiancé, mine actually loves me and wants to settle down with me. I made it clear that if she couldn't be happy for me, fine, but she didn't need to insult me just because I'd found happiness while she hadn't. Her face turned red with embarrassment, and I left her there that as the night went on, I made sure to steer clear of her. Leo noticed I was tense and tried to talk to me, but I didn't want to ruin our night by mentioning Terry, so I kept it to myself for the time being. Eventually, I started enjoying conversations with guests when I heard the clink of a glass. Leo began speaking and announced he had a pre-wedding gift for me. He'd booked my dream wedding venue. I'd been obsessing over a particular place for days, talking about how perfect it would be, but it was too expensive and out of our budget, so I'd given up on it. I never imagined Leo had been listening so closely, let alone that he'd book it as a surprise. I didn't care who was watching. I was going to kiss my fiancé, and I did. That's why I love him. He's so thoughtful, always finding ways to make me feel special. I told him he didn't need to go to such lengths, that marrying him anywhere would make me happy. He just smiled and said it would be the best day of our lives, and he wanted to see me happy to AS if the night wasn't already full of surprises. Leo's parents stood up shortly after and made their own announcement. They said they'd always hoped I'd become their daughter-in-law, and now that it was happening, they wanted to do something special for us. My father-in-law said he'd be thrilled to pay for our honeymoon. The night felt perfect, except for the small issue with my sister. She was clearly unhappy after our talk, but I didn't care. Then, my mom suddenly pulled me aside and asked me to go upstairs. I asked what was wrong, and she insisted she had something important to tell me. When I got to my room, Terry was already there, sitting on the edge of the bed with her arms crossed. My mom said she and Terry had something to tell me, but insisted I keep an open mind and really listen. Then Terry spoke up. I think I should be with Leo instead of Ezra. She said she was in love with him and that he was a good person, unlike Ezra, who'd be better for me. She claimed Leo only avoided her out of respect for me, but if he were single, he'd see her differently. She was sure he'd fall for her quickly because she could be just as good a girlfriend as anyone else. She just needed a chance. That chance meant me leaving my fiancé that I looked at my mom to see if this was a joke, but she was staring at me seriously, as if expecting a response. I said, "Leave my fiancé? What are you talking about, Terry?" I knew what she meant, but I wanted her to explain herself in case I'd misunderstood. She said I wasn't good enough for Leo because I didn't treat family well, especially her. She claimed she'd be better, even a better daughter-in-law for his parents. I could feel my blood pressure rising, but before I could respond, she insisted she'd always felt I wasn't as serious about Leo as he was about me, that I was young and immature, while she was ready to be a wife and have kids. She'd been ready for 3 years, while I'd only just decided to get married. She argued all I had to do was break up with Leo. He'd be devastated, and she'd comfort him, leading them to become a couple. She even said I could have Ezra, and she wouldn't be jealous of me being with her ex. I knew Terry was self-centered, but this was a level of entitlement and selfishness beyond compare. And when they say 2 heads are better than 1, they weren't talking about my sister and mom, because both were buying into this nonsense. I won't deny we all have stupid ideas sometimes, but those ideas usually don't pass the test of saying them out loud. If it sounds awful when you say it, you discard it. But neither Terry nor my mom seemed to pass that test. They were stuck on this idea, and it was sad to see them struggle with it at this point. Our voices were loud enough that people at the party could probably hear us arguing. Or rather, I was telling them they were being foolish, spouting nonsense, so absurd they couldn't even see how ridiculous it was. That's when the door opened. Leo had noticed I was gone and came looking for me. He could tell from my face something was wrong and asked what was happening. Ezra was standing behind him. I turned to look at Terry and my mom, knowing there was a chance Ezra had heard everything. At least his expression suggested he had. I told my mom and sister to go downstairs and keep walking until they reached the door and left. For the rest of the night, I stayed close to Leo, and he didn't leave my side. When it was time for everyone to go, I told him what happened. He said my sister was crazy enough to try drying her hair in a microwave. He assured me he'd rather marry my mom than Terry, which is saying something, because he'd rather buy a one-way ticket to the sun than marry my mom. It's hard not to love him, and everything he said and did that night was perfect. At least my sister and mom didn't ruin my night, but I had to share how unhinged they are. Update 1. Many of you are right. Terry's behavior is so unhinged she deserves to be locked in a padded room, with the key thrown into a black hole and the map to the room burned. There's no sugarcoating it. Thankfully, I trust Leo, and I trust that no man I'd want to marry would ever go for someone like her. I told Leo if he's going to cheat, at least do it with someone who has a functioning brain. Terry's is a mystery of colors, not gray matter. I'd divorce him, but it'd hurt less if he left me for someone who isn't competing for the title of least brain cells. That's just how my sister is. She doesn't care about flirting in front of him and making him uncomfortable. To be clear, I've always stood up for Leo. I've confronted Terry multiple times about her behavior, telling her to stop, that it's not okay. Once, I even slapped her because, while I was telling her to cut it out, she said she didn't care. Luckily for her, and unfortunately for my hand, I barely grazed her. But no matter how many times I've addressed it or how many family gatherings at my dad's we've skipped, she keeps at it. What happened at my engagement party was next-level insanity. It's like someone asked her how crazy she wanted to be, and she just said, yes. The silver lining is we know who's not coming to the wedding, which saves us some seats. For starters, My mom and Terry, but also Ezra, because I won't invite him if Terry's not there. Update 2. Many of you keep asking why I haven't exposed my sister and mom to the rest of the family. Honestly, Leo and I aren't those kinds of people. Sure, we could expose them and get revenge, but we don't want to waste more energy on such toxic people. I'm in one of the happiest chapters of my life, excited to get married, and I refuse to let family drama take that away. I don't want to create tension or force anyone to pick sides. Instead, I've decided to cut contact with my mom and Terry. That said, I did talk to my dad because he deserved to know why I'm cutting them off. Needless to say, he was furious. He gave my mom a serious talking to for supporting this nonsense and assured me I'm making the right choice. Whatever happens, I'll keep a relationship with my dad. This has nothing to do with him, and I won't let Mom and Terry's actions take him away from me. He's still invited to my wedding, and if my mom protests, he said he doesn't care. He's not missing his daughter's wedding. He's already waited 3 years for his other daughters, which never happened. Update 3. Something interesting has happened. Apparently, Ezra overheard everything said that night. I don't know exactly when he started listening, but at some point while I was upstairs arguing with Terry and my mom, he must have been nearby and heard every vile word they said. I just found out he's completely canceled any wedding plans and broken off his engagement with Terry. It's amusing because it was the longest wedding planning in history. It feels redundant to cancel it, but at least it's official. From what I've heard, they had a massive fight. I can only imagine how that conversation went. Ezra, learning his fiancée, basically confessed she wanted another man, none other than my fiancé. Then he made a social media post exposing Terry and my mom for trying to push me to swap fiancés. It saved me the trouble and stress of doing it myself. I see that post as the invitation to Terry's non-wedding, the only invitation we'll ever get from that couple, since there never was one since the breakup. Terry's been furious with me. She said Ezra was her backup plan, and she didn't want to lose him. She wanted me to talk to him and explain it was my fault, that I provoked her into saying those things, and she didn't mean them. As if I could spin what she said, which is indefensible. I may look smart next to my sister, but not smart enough to fix that. Not that I have any interest in doing her any favors. My pettier side is even enjoying this. If anyone's to blame for Ezra overhearing, it's them. Today, Terry had the audacity to call me from a coworker's phone since she's blocked and can't reach me otherwise. She was screaming about how she'll get revenge for what I've done and warned me not to think this was my victory. I couldn't help but laugh. Her idea of revenge will probably backfire given her intelligence. She said eventually Leo would see this side of me and leave, and she'd be waiting for him. She didn't say it in those words. She mentioned her private parts and Leo's. As if Leo doesn't know all my secrets. I told him exactly what she said, and he warned me not to repeat it unless I want his friend to stop working. I told her she should be grateful. If anything, I made it easier for her to play the homewrecker role she seems to love. She should thank me for clearing the path to do what she does best, being a thoughtless idiot. I told her to find a comfy chair if she plans to wait for my future husband, and hung up while she was still yelling that I don't know if this is karma, but everything happening to her is her own doing. The only surprise is that her stupidity didn't catch up with her sooner. Update 4. Before sharing my post-wedding update, a few things. Some people weren't happy with me calling my sister stupid so many times, but I don't see the issue. I'm not calling a penguin an elephant, though some people identify as dogs and buy costumes to live as one, so I guess that's the kind of crowd I'm dealing with in some comments. If that's you, I apologize. You've got enough problems without someone insulting you on Reddit. As I've mentioned, my wedding's already happened, so Leo's no longer my fiancé, he's my husband. It wasn't just a celebration of our union, but also of my parents' divorce. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's start with the wedding. The wedding was amazing, and I prepared special gifts for Leo. Not what you're thinking, but gifts to thank him for securing our dream venue. I avoided mentioning what Terry said about her parts, and Leo to not ruin our wedding night. Everyone we wanted was there, and everyone we didn't want wasn't. Now, about the divorce, I mentioned it casually, but it was a big deal. I wasn't involved, but my dad divorced my mom. I'd say faster than Terry's wedding, but that was painfully slow and never happened. Here's why the divorce happened. My mom wanted my dad to cover Ezra's share of expenses so Terry wouldn't lose her place. She told him to do it because his favorite daughter messed things up for his other daughter, reminding him he has 2 daughters. My dad basically said, no, there were arguments, but he got fed up and told her if she didn't want her favorite daughter to lose her home, she could move in with her because he was done. He also reminded her she has 2 daughters. I didn't get gifts from either of them, but I couldn't ask for more. Imagine a wedding gift being your parents' divorce. It's the best. 4 other daughters. It'd be the worst thing, but for me, the worst is my dad staying married to that narcissist.